Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Parshat Ki Teitzei, practical lessons to put into our lives. A lot of them relate to Chodesh Elul, which we're always going through during when we read Parshat Ki Teitzei. Here we go. Dvarim Chaf Aleph Pasuk Yud. Ki Teitzei la milchama ol oivecha. When you go to war against your enemies, unisano Hashem elokecha biyadecha. Hashem will place those enemies into your hands. Vishavisa shivyo, and you're going to take captives. Says the Shlach HaKadosh. Yes, on a basic, literal level, the Torah is talking about when you go to war against your external enemies. But he says, B'melchemet hayetzer akasav medaber. Torah is also symbolically talking about the battle that we fight, the war that we wage with our yetzer hara, with our desire to do that which is wrong. And he says, what is the Torah telling us? When you go to war with the yetzer hara, if you make a determination, I am not going to just give into whatever drives and desires come my way, but I will fight against those that are not allowed. Hashem will help you. Hashem will enable you to defeat that enemy, that yetzer hara. Ki haba l'taher b'sayino. Because if you have made a determination that you want to purify yourself, you want to make yourself into a better person, Hashem will come and help you. Ki teitzei la milchama ol oivecha unisano. Hashem will help you. Hashem will be there. Don't feel like you're in this by yourself. No, you're in this partnership with Hashem. When He sees that you're making the effort to be better, Hashem will come and help you along the way. We say in the Elah on Yom Kippur about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Atanosei yad laposhim, you reach out your hand to those who have done something wrong. HaKadosh Baruch Hu recognizes that we live in a world where people have failures and people make mistakes. And Hashem then reaches out His hand and says, come, I will take you. Just grab my hand and I will help you defeat that enemy. You know, the Gemara says in Masechet Sukkah, Daf Nun Bet Amud Aleph, that the time will come, La'asid lavo, Mevio Kadosh Baruch Hu yetzer hara. Hashem will take the yetzer hara and will slaughter it, so to speak, in front of the people of the world. And He says, Tzadikim nidma lahem kahar gavoha, Rishayim nidma lahem chut hasara. He says that for tzadikim, they'll feel like, wow, I cannot believe what we were able to overcome. But Rishayim, those who did not defeat the yetzer hara, they're going to say, oh my goodness, that was nothing. It was a hair's breadth. It was something I could have done. Because with Hashem's help, it is absolutely possible to defeat the yetzer hara. And some of the Baalei Mussar are going further and say on this pasuk, Vishavisa shivyo, you're able to take those desires that you had and bring them as captives, so to speak, into your avodat Hashem. Meaning, all the different drives that we have can be channeled in a certain way towards avodat Hashem. And that's what the Torah here is telling us as well. You defeat the yetzer hara and you rechannel it. So lesson number one from Parshat Ki Teitzei, make a determination in our minds. We are going to battle with the yetzer hara. We're aware of the yetzer hara. We're aware of the fact that we're being pulled in directions that we shouldn't be going in. We want to fight against it. And once you do that, Nisano Hashem elokecha biyadecha. Hashem will come and He'll help you. It's not insurmountable. It's not impossible. Together with Hashem's help, you can get it done. Lesson number one. Lesson number two, continuing though on this theme, and we have actually mentioned this earlier in the Torah, but it's such an important lesson that I felt it was worth repeating. If you go back in the Torah to Bamidbar, Perek Yud, Pasuk 10, and Parshat Ba'aloscha, it talks about going to war with our enemies. And there it says, Kitavo milchama ba'artzachem. When you fight a battle in your own country, it says, blow the chatzotro, there's a whole process, and then Hashem is going to help you. And the Kotzker Rebbe asks, I don't understand. Why over there is there a battle and there's a whole process till we get saved? And over here in Ki Teitzei, it says, you go to war, you will beat it. You'll win. What is that all about? The Kotzker Rebbe again brings it into the realm of the yetzer hara. And he says, in Ba'aloscha, notice what it says. When you have a battle inside your home, in your land, then it's a much more difficult process to win. If you're Ki Teitzei la milchama alevecha, it's not in your home, it's not inside yourself, but you're going out there to do battle, Hashem will give you victory. And the Kotzker Rebbe says, certainly that applies on a literal level. It's a lot easier to fight a war away from the home front and not when you're defending your own cities, but the Yetzer Hara as well. If you're fighting the Yetzer Hara when it's out there, as it says in this week's Parshat Ki Teitzei milchama levecha, you can defeat it much easier than if the Yetzer Hara is already inside. If it's already inside your home, it's already a part of who you are and your lifestyle, it's going to be much more difficult to beat it. And therefore, lesson number 2 from the Parsha, to do whatever we can. We're all going to have Yetzer Hara. Everyone has desires and drives to do things that are wrong. The goal is to keep that as far away from the home front as possible. Once you open the doors to your home and bring it inside, for you and for your family, it's much more difficult to defeat. But once it's okay, in the world out there, there's all kinds of things. And when I go out to that world, I have to do battle, you have a much better chance of defeating the Yetzer Hara. That's lesson number 2 from this week's Parsha. When we are battling the Yetzer Hara, let's try to make sure that one of the first steps is that we do not allow it to come inside our homes, inside our beings, but it's just something that we have to fight when we're out there. And then we have a much better chance of defeating it. Once you've allowed the Yetzer Hara into your home, once you've allowed all those negative influences into your home, into your very being, it's much more difficult at that point to fight it and to overcome it. Lesson number 3 on this parsha, on this pasuk, and also the same thing that we just mentioned about Bahaloscha and Ki Teitzei, but now we're going to shift to the literal translation of the pasuk, of an actual war. And again, we have an interesting scenario. This is the Shemish Shmuel asked the question. First, he asked what we just asked, which is why in Bahaloscha is victory assured immediately? Sorry, over here, Ki Teitzei, victory is assured immediately, but in Bahaloscha, there's a process. And he also asks, why do we find Lama Nemar Kan B'Lashon Yachid, Ki Teitzei la milchama olevecha in the singular, and over there in Bahaloscha, it says Ki Tavo'u milchama in the plural. Why over there in the plural and over here is it in the Yachid? Says the Shemish Shmuel, one answer will answer the other one. Zeh shenemar kan b'lashon Yachid, when it says here in our parsha, Ki teitzei la milchama olevecha in the singular, that means Ki ish echad, b'lev echad, be'achdut v'reut. We're going to war as one unified people. When we're doing it that way, Az rutano Hashem elokecha b'yadecha, Hashem will help you be victorious. But if we go to war and we are a broken, polarized people, where we were broken up into different groups, then you have to go with the chatzot throat. There's a whole process because we really, really need Hashem's help in that scenario because victory is not assured. We have talked over and over again about the importance of achdut and how that is the key to the brachot of Am Yisrael. And now we have a source which specifically says that if we want to be successful in defeating our enemies, we have to be unified. When you're unified in the singular, Hashem will help you win. But when it's when you're different people and polarized, a lot more difficult. Lesson number 3, again, internalize and recognize the benefits that come to us as a people when we are unified. And here it is saying very straight out that one of those benefits is victory in war and defeating our enemies, something which we certainly need to have at all times. Achdut is the key to that success. Moving on to lesson number 4. Dvarim Chaf Aleph Yud Gimel. We have the story of the Eshet Yifat Toar, and it says this woman who's going to be joining the Jewish people, Uvachta et avia ve'et ima yerech yamim. She's going to cry about the loss of her mother and her father for a month. Says the Zohar, what is that month? Zu Chodesh Elul. That month is Elul. What does one have to do with the other? The Yifat Toar and Elul. And the answer, according to Balei Musar, is very, very clear. We tend to not take Elul as seriously as we probably should. Elul is the time when we hear the shofar in the morning, we say the David Hashem Ori, we make plans for Rosh Hashanah, but there's supposed to be an entire transformation that is taking place inside of ourselves as we prepare for Rosh Hashanah. As the Baal Tanya says during the month of Elul, HaMelech Basadeh, Hashem is in the field, He's making His way towards us. Dirshu Hashem bimatzol b'takarov. Seek Hashem when He's coming closer to us. He's on His way. and we have to make in the preparations for the Yom Hadin. The Yifat Torah, she cries for a month over her past life. If we are going to really do any kind of tshuva on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur during the Yamim Noraim, we have to begin that process now of crying over feeling charata, over things that we've done wrong and we want to change about our lives. There's no way you can just wake up on Rosh Hashanah morning, on Yom Kippur morning, and all of a sudden just somehow light a switch and feel what you're supposed to be feeling in order to make changes in our lives. And that is what the month of Elul is for. And that, according to the Zohar, is the message in this Yerach Yamim Zu Chodesh Elul. Just like she is leaving a life of idolatry and joining the Jewish people, a major transformation that's taking place, we have to view the month of Elul and the Yamim Noraim as an opportunity to make major transformations in our lives. And that requires, as a first step, charata, regretting the things that we've done wrong and trying to get ourselves onto that new path. My father, Zechron Levracha, used to talk about the Mashgiach Ruchani of Ner Yisrael, Rav David Kronglas at Sal. He said, from the moment Rosh Chodesh Elul came, you saw a change in his face, and that seriousness lasted until the shofar blew on Motzi Yom Kippur. Once the shofar blew on Motzi Yom Kippur, he was back to himself. But for those 40 days, this is serious business. He's going through the month of Elul. Yerach Yamim of Bachsa and Avia Imai. He's trying to change himself. Lesson number 4. Let's think about that Zohar, about this crying of the past life for that month, and try on whatever level we can to make that a part of our Elul as well, as we are beginning to plan for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Begin now the process of regretting things that we've done wrong, so hopefully we can then make the transformation to doing things right once the high holidays actually come around. Moving on to lesson number 5. Dvarim Chaf Bet Aleph. Lo tira et shor achicha. Oh, it says, oh, seyo nidachim, don't see the ox of your friend that's lost, v'hitalamta mehem, and you turned away from them, return it. Right? The mitzvah of Hashavat Avidah, you see something that belongs to your friend that's lost, make sure to return it to him. Rabbi Dov Lipman makes a very interesting observation. Kan nemar shor achicha. Here it says the ox of your brother. Uve Parshat Mishpatim, when we had this parsha earlier, remember, Dvarim is Mishnah Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu is going over things that were in the Torah already. This already appeared in Mishpatim, and there it says Shor Oivecha, the ox of your enemy. What is that going on? What's going on over here? First, it mentions the ox of your enemy. Here, Moshe mentions the ox of your brother. Says Rabbeinu Bachai, Lilamdenu. What is this coming to teach us? Shelo dai b'hachzaras avedasa. It's not enough to just return the lost object of the person that you hate. Does it mention the Torah to do that? It says it outright in Mishpatim, Shor Oivecha. Elayish lahasir gamet hasina. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, I know that earlier in the Torah it said Shor Oivecha. And now I want you to know that it's not just a command to take the ox of your enemy and return it to him, which obviously takes a lot of willpower, but you have to also work at the same time on getting rid of that sinah, getting rid of that hatred, and turning that oyev, turning that enemy into achicha, into your brother. And that's why he uses the word brother over here. Ha-mitzvah tzricha liyot ha-gorem, shetishrash milibcha hasina, you'll get rid of the hatred that you feel, u'ta'ora racha me'ach b'rikshut achma. When the Torah says return the ox, what it's hoping to do is to restore that relationship, to repair that relationship, to say, when you go to him and you return the object, that's the first step towards reconciliation. Hashem tishivem la'achicha, kashetachzelo es ha'aveda, because once you return that lost object, kvar yeh ka'achicha, now you're acting with him like your brother, and that is the way to repair relationships. When you have a situation where people aren't talking to each other, where people hate each other, how do you fix that? The Torah is saying, do something. Do something for that person. Start acting with that person as if they're your brother, and then you can make that transformation. As Rav Dessler teaches so beautifully, the word ahava, the word love, has in it hav, giving. The way to establish love for someone else is by giving to that person. And that is what we have to do in this situation as well. And in general, when anybody finds any relationships when there are people who are against one another, right here in Hashavat Avodah, it's teaching us that one act can begin the process of changing it from a relationship of hatred to a relationship of brotherhood. And that is lesson number 5. If you are in a relationship or a situation where there's tension, if there are people that are polarized to one another, there's a gap between them, we have to work to heal that gap, to close that gap, to repair the situation. And a way to do that is by actually having the courage to take an action and do it for that person. And that will take that person from oivecha and make that person achicha and make that person your brother. Lesson number 5. Lesson number 6, this week's Parsha. Torah tells us, Lo tachrosh b'shor u'b'chamor yachdav. Dvarim chaf bet yud aleph. You're not allowed to plow with an ox and the donkey together. Why not? The Even Ezra says, Ki chomel Hashem al kol ma'asav. Hashem has compassion on all of his creations. Ve'ein kol hachamor kekol hashor. The donkey is not as strong as the ox. And what's going to happen when they plow together? There's no way the donkey can keep up, and it'll torture the donkey when he's plowing together with the ox, because he cannot possibly physically keep up with what the ox is doing. Rabbi Yosef Cairo gives a different explanation for why you can't plow the two together. Ki hashor malagera, because the ox chews its cud. Below is tamida, it's always chewing. The hachamor ain't malagera. The chamor, the donkey, has a regular stomach. It doesn't chew its cud. Via nira lachamor, the donkey is going to see its partner in plowing all the time. Ki hashor ochel, he's just getting more food. V'hu, and he, the donkey, mitaneh, suffering. V'zeh tsar ba'alei chayim, and that is causing unnecessary suffering to animals. This is one of the many sources in the Torah where the Torah talks about tsar ba'alei chayim, that you cannot cause animals to suffer. It's a core Torah value, which we really have to transmit to our children and to our students and to our communities, that we should be the leaders in the world and making sure that animals don't suffer for no reason. In fact, we say it every single day in Shema. When we talk about in the second parsha of Shema, that Hashem will bless us with great crops, with rain and crops, it says you'll have crops for your animals and crops for yourselves. And Chazal learned from there that you must feed your animal first and then feed yourself, because otherwise you're causing suffering to the animal, just like you have over here with the donkey who sees the ox that is eating. 2 explanations for why you cannot plow the ox and the donkey together, and both of them relate to Tsar B'Chayim. This is lesson number 6, to really internalize the Torah value that all of Hashem's creations, Hashem has compassion on all of his creations, we should as well, and to recognize the value, the importance that Tsar B'Chayim has. It is a Torah level commandment, and let's make sure that we're living our lives with that recognition and understanding of the significance of that Torah value and of that Torah mitzvah. Moving on to lesson number 7, Dvarim Chavhei Tetva. It's talking about being honest in business, being honest with your weights. Even Shlema V'Tzedek Yelecha. When you have your weights and your scales, make sure that the stones that you're using to weigh really have the value. Really weigh what you're telling people that they weigh. Make sure that they are perfect and they are righteous. That's what you're supposed to have. Whenever I see this pasuk, I think about an incredible story that Rabbi Yisachar Fran told. He said that he was in Or Sameach speaking to an audience there. And after the speech, a woman came over to him and said, I have a question for you. It's not related to what you spoke about specifically. She said that her parents were not religious. She's a Balat Shuvah. She came back to becoming religious. And she said her father had passed away something like 25 years earlier in South Africa. And in the will, he said that when his wife passes away, when her mother passes away, if they had the opportunity to bury them both in Israel, they should inter his body and bury him in Israel. And sure enough, they did that. They took his body out of the ground in South Africa. They shipped it to Israel, and her brother went along. The Chaver Kadisha was prepared to bury him in Har HaZeitim. They were wearing special suits. They're opening up a coffin that has been in the ground for 25 years, and they're prepared for whatever contamination there would be there. And they open it up, and they say, Tzaddik, Tzaddik, Shalem, Shalem. He's righteous. He's perfect. He's complete. And her brother walked over and looked, And her father looked exactly the way he looked when he passed away 25 years ago. The way we understand that a tzaddik, someone who's truly righteous in their lives, that their body may not decompose. And she says to her, my friend, I don't understand. My father was a nice person, but he didn't keep Torah and mitzvot. He wasn't a tzaddik in the way that we understand it. But my friend said, tell me anything you can about your father. She said, well, I'll tell you, my father was incredibly honest in business. In fact, he became very wealthy because people knew that he was so honest to deal with, and everyone wanted to do business with him, and he was blessed with great riches because of that. That's what he was known for. And my friend said that all of a sudden it hit him. What was the Chevra Kadisha yelling out when they opened up the coffin? Tzaddik, Shalem. And what does the pasuk say here about being honest in business? Even shlema v'tzedek ti'elecha, shalem and tzaddik. It's right there in the pasuk, and maybe there's something there about Hashem saying, right, tzedek and shalem. That's the highest level that Hashem can ask for us, is to be honest. And that's why this person was a tzaddik. He was not observing Torah and mitzvot, but he reached the highest levels that Hashem can want, which is honesty. And sure enough, what does the Gemara say in Masechet Shabbat, Daf Lamed Amud Aleph? When a person is brought before Hashem in the ultimate judgment after a person passes away, what's the first question? The person is asked, B'shasha machnisin adam ledin omrim lo, nasata v'natata be'emuna. Were you honest in business? Question number 2 is, did you have set times every day to learn Torah? Unbelievable. The first question, the most important thing is, were you honest in your business dealings? That is how important this is. So when we read this pasuk, and this is lesson number 7 in this week's parsha, and we see the words, Even, Shlema, B'tzedek Yelecha, let's think about the importance of honesty and where that ranks in the hierarchy of Jewish values and Torah values at the highest of levels imaginable, to the point that this person perhaps was tzaddik and shalem because of it. But let's realize how important this is in terms of the Torah mitzvah, the Torah value, to be honest in business. Finally, lesson number 8, Dvarim Chaf Hei Tetvav. Torah tells us, Ki toavat Hashem Elokecha kol osei ele. Anybody who does all of these things, it's an abomination to Hashem. By the way, that's connected to honesty in business. The word to'eva, an abomination, is used in that context. Kol osei avel. Anyone who does anything which is wrong. The Tav Sofer says, what is this kol? Twice. You just said, anybody who does all of this is an abomination. Then it says again, anybody who does all of this. Says the Tav Sofer, the mitzvot shebin adam l'makom. When it comes to laws between man and God, if you don't know that it's forbidden, you make a mistake, you're not held accountable for it. Like, how should I know on my own that I should observe the Shabbat, or I should observe kosher, or I should observe shatnez? These are mitzvot ben adam l'makom. Masha'enkein, he says, it's not the case with mitzvot ben adam l'chavero. Shehe mitzvot sichliot, they're all just basic, obvious ways that a person should act. Even if they weren't written, you should keep those mitzvot. That's what it's saying over here. Kitoavat Hashem Elokecha kol osa'ela. What is kol? Kol is a reboy. You don't even know about it. You're doing something which is wrong, not because Hashem told you that it's wrong, because you as a human being should know that it's wrong. When you are lacking in your ben adam l'chavero, when you're not treating other people properly, put Hashem aside for a moment. You on your own as a human being should realize that you're doing something which is wrong, and it's a to'eva. It's an abomination, not because Hashem told you that it's a mitzvah, because you have to know as a human being how to act to somebody else. The seichel itself should tell you to stay away from it. Derech eretz kadma laTorah, the most basic idea taught in a few different places, that Hashem expects us to be good people towards other people, not because the Torah tells us to do so, but because that's who we are as human beings. And we should be compassionate and kind and looking to help other people. And it's a to'eva, kol osei, whether you know about Hashem telling you or not, you're held accountable for lacking in ben adam l'chavero. Lesson number 8. To understand and live our lives as people who are constantly on the alert for being proper in ben adam l'chavero, to recognize that Hashem holds us accountable for that and expects that of us, even without all the mitzvot in the Torah that deal with it. Just be a good and kind person. Be a human being who acts with others the way you want to be acted towards yourself. Derech Eretz Kabbalah Torah. It's the alphabet of what it's all about. And it's a toeva. It's an abomination if you don't act that way. Lesson number 8. Let's go over all the lessons we learned from this week's parsha. We started at the very beginning. When you go to fight against your enemies. But the Bali Musar talking about the fact this is fighting against the Yetzer Hara, and the Shlach Kadosh who said, Hashem will help you. You make the first steps. Hashem's hand will be there to help you along the way. The Yetzer Hara is defeatable. When you have a partnership with Hashem, just take those first steps, and you'll be on your way towards defeating the Yetzer Hara. Lesson number 2, associated with that, is the Kotzker Rebbe pointed out that earlier in Sefer Bamidbar, when the war was in the home front, it's much more difficult. There's no obvious Hashem will give it to your hands. There's a whole process you have to go through. But when the war is out there, you're in a much better place to succeed. Let's fight the Yetzer Hara out there, the outside world, and not bring it into our homes and into ourselves. Lesson number 2. Lesson number 3, the Shem Mishmuel, when fighting an actual war. Here it says in Ki Teitzei in Lashon Yachid, in the singular. There in Balotra, it was Lashon Rabim. What is that all about? Again, he says, when we are unified as a people, the bracha will come and Hashem will help us defeat our enemies. When we are not unified, when we are polarized, it's much more difficult. We need a lot more of rachmim from Hashem in order to be victorious. The importance of achdut and how it helps us even in our battle against our physical enemies. Lesson number 4, the Yifat Toar cries for a whole month. The Erech Yamim Zu Chodesh Elul, according to Zohar. Elul is a time for us to take seriously, to work on the regret that we have for things that we've done wrong as we prepare ourselves to change our path, just like the Yifat Torah does when it comes to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Lesson number 5, here it says, return the shore of your brother. Earlier in the Torah it said, return the shore of your enemy. Moshe Rabbeinu was teaching us, according to Rabbeinu Bachai, do an act to help someone who's your quote-unquote enemy, and that will hopefully begin a reconciliation between the two and work towards bring achicha, as Rav Dessler says, hab, love, ava is giving. Give to the person that you dislike or you have a difficult relationship with, and hopefully that can begin to repair that relationship. Lesson number 6, not plowing the ox and the donkey together. Both according to Evan Ezra, who says that it's because the donkey can't keep up with the ox, and according to Yosef Cairo, who says because the ox is chewing its cud, and the donkey will feel bad that it's not getting food. Tsar balei chayim. It's a basic Torah mitzvah and value. Let's make sure that's part of our lives as well, not causing unnecessary harm to animals. Lesson number 7, Evan Shlema v'tzedek yilacha, to have your weights be honest and perfect. That person who his body didn't decompose, he was not observing Torah mitzvot, but he did have the value of honesty. Hashem's first question when a person passes away is, were you honest in business? Let's make sure that we internalize the importance of that lesson of honesty into our lives. And then finally, lesson number 8, Hashem calls it a toivah, when you're not acting properly towards other people, not because Hashem commanded it, because it's a basic human trait, should be to have compassion and kindness towards other people. Let's make sure we put derech eretz kabbalah Torah, and we have the value of it because we're human beings and we should act that properly and kindly towards fellow human beings. Let's try to take all, some, even one of these lessons and put it into our lives. Let's grow through Parshat Ki Teitzei. Thank you so much for joining us. Wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom.